How to improve your English speaking, a journey. Once upon a time, there was a young woman named Sarah who lived in a small, bustling town. Growing up, Sarah always admired the people she saw in movies and on television who could speak English fluently and confidently. She knew that learning English would open up a world of possibilities for her. She could make new friends, find a better job, and even travel to faraway lands she had only dreamed of. With this in mind, Sarah decided to improve her English-speaking skills. The journey was not going to be easy, but Sarah was determined. She started by setting a simple goal: practice a little every day. She knew that the key to mastering anything was consistency. At first, she felt shy about speaking English, even with her own family. She worried about making mistakes or sounding silly. But soon, she realized that practice makes perfect, and she had to get comfortable with making mistakes if she wanted to grow. To begin, Sarah would stand in front of her mirror every morning and have a pretend conversation. She would smile at her reflection and say, "Hello, how are you?" Sometimes she would pretend to be someone she admired, a news anchor or an actress, and imagine herself in different scenarios. Practicing like this made Sarah feel more confident, and over time, she noticed that she started speaking English without thinking too much about it. Sarah realized that to get better, she needed to immerse herself in English as much as possible. So, she began to listen to English every single day. She watched English movies, starting with those that had subtitles so she could understand the dialogues better. She would pause and repeat interesting phrases until she could say them just like the actors. Sometimes, she even mimicked their tone and accent, imagining herself in the scenes. Sarah also began listening to English songs. She fell in love with the music of the Beatles and Taylor Swift. She would listen to their songs on repeat, writing down the lyrics and singing along. Music became an amazing teacher for Sarah, helping her with pronunciation and teaching her new words. One day, she even sang her favorite song for her friends, and though she made a few mistakes, they all applauded her effort. Sarah felt proud. This was another step in her journey. She didn't stop there. Sarah began tuning into the English news every morning. At first, the words sounded fast and complicated, but she kept at it. Each day, she understood a little bit more. Listening to the news not only improved her comprehension skills but also gave her interesting topics to discuss with others. Another thing Sarah loved was reading. She started with children's books because they were easy to understand and full of colorful illustrations. Stories like The Very Hungry Caterpillar and Charlotte's Web became her favorites. She would read out loud, pronouncing each word carefully, and whenever she came across a word she didn't know, she would look it up in her dictionary and write it down in her notebook. As time went on, she graduated to magazines and even short novels. She found a magazine that focused on travel, and it became her favorite because it combined two of her passions, learning English and dreaming about different countries. Sarah would read articles about places like Paris, New York, and Tokyo, imagining herself walking through the streets of these incredible cities. Reading aloud was a daily ritual. It not only improved her pronunciation but also made her more comfortable with the rhythm of the language. She would sit in her room and read to her little brother, who loved the stories she told. This made Sarah realize that she was not just learning for herself, she was also inspiring those around her. To further enhance her skills, Sarah decided to start writing in English. She bought a beautiful diary with a colorful cover and began writing about her day. Today, I woke up early and practiced speaking English in front of the mirror, she wrote. At first, her sentences were simple, but as her vocabulary grew, so did the complexity of her writing. Sarah also tried her hand at writing stories. She wrote about a magical forest where animals could talk and about a young girl who traveled to the moon. Writing allowed her to use her imagination and experiment with the new words she was learning. She enjoyed creating worlds and characters, and she loved seeing her progress on the pages of her diary. To connect with others, Sarah even began writing letters to her friends. They would write back, correcting her mistakes and encouraging her to keep going. It felt wonderful to see her efforts being appreciated, and it motivated her to keep learning. Of course, there were times when Sarah felt frustrated. She made mistakes, and sometimes she couldn't find the right words to express herself. But Sarah knew that mistakes were part of the learning process. Instead of feeling discouraged, she embraced her errors as opportunities to learn. Whenever she didn't understand something, she would ask her teacher or her friends for help. They were always patient with her, correcting her gently and explaining things in a way she could understand. One of Sarah's biggest challenges was pronunciation. English words didn't always sound the way they were spelled, and this confused her. Words like knife and island were especially tricky. But Sarah found ways to improve. She used online resources and watched videos that showed how to pronounce difficult words. She would stand in front of her mirror and practice, exaggerating the movements of her mouth until she got it right. Sarah also faced the challenge of speaking fluently. She often paused to think about what she wanted to say, and this made her conversation slow and awkward. But then her teacher gave her a great piece of advice: think in English. At first, this seemed impossible. How could she think in a language she was still learning? But she started small, thinking simple thoughts like, I am hungry, or, this is my book. Gradually, thinking in English became more natural, and she noticed that her speaking improved. One day, Sarah decided to join an English class. It was a big step, but she knew it was the right one. In class, she met other students who were also learning English, and this made her feel less alone. They practiced together, and Sarah found it comforting to know that others were facing the same challenges as she was. The class was a lot of fun. They played games, acted out dialogues, and even put on short plays. Sarah loved the role-playing activities because they allowed her to use English in real-life situations. She also loved asking questions. Her teacher was always encouraging, telling her that every question she asked brought her closer to fluency. Sarah also made friends who were fluent in English. They would meet at a cafe and talk about different things: school, movies, their dreams for the future. Talking to them helped Sarah learn more about how English was used in daily life. She learned new expressions and idioms that made her sound more natural. Her friends would gently correct her mistakes, and she appreciated their help. Through these conversations, Sarah also learned a lot about different cultures. One of her friends, Emily, was from England, and she told Sarah about British customs, food, and festivals. Another friend, John, was from the United States, and he shared stories about life in New York City. Sarah loved hearing about their experiences, and it made her even more excited to travel one day. Sarah knew that to keep improving, she needed to set goals for herself. She decided to learn 5 new words every day and practice speaking for at least 10 minutes. She wrote her new words on sticky notes and put them around her room, on her mirror, her desk, even on the refrigerator. This way, she would see them often and remember to use them. Every time she reached her goal, Sarah would reward herself. Sometimes she would treat herself to her favorite dessert, a delicious slice of chocolate cake. Other times, she would allow herself an hour to watch her favorite movie. These small rewards made learning fun and kept her motivated. One day, after months of practice, Sarah found herself in a situation where she had to use all the English she had learned. A group of tourists had come to her town, and they looked lost. Sarah knew she had to help them. She walked up to them, her heart pounding, and asked, "Can I help you?" They smiled and explained that they were looking for a nearby museum. Sarah gave them directions in English, speaking clearly and confidently. The tourists thanked her, and one of them said, "Your English is very good." Sarah couldn't believe it. All her hard work had paid off. She had spoken in English, helped someone, and they had understood her perfectly. From that day on, Sarah felt unstoppable. She continued to practice every day, setting new goals and pushing herself further. She knew that learning a language was a lifelong journey, but she was ready for it. She was ready to travel, to make new friends from all over the world, and to take on any challenge that came her way. Sarah's journey taught her that patience, perseverance, and a willingness to make mistakes were the keys to success. She realized that learning English was not just about speaking another language, it was about connecting with others, understanding different cultures, and growing as a person. And so, with her newfound confidence, Sarah set off on her adventures, ready to explore the world and make her dreams come true. The sky was the limit, and she was reaching for the stars. Today, I'm about to share a simple yet powerful trick that could completely change the way you learn English. It's not a complicated method or a magic formula, it's something you may have been overlooking. But trust me, it's the most important thing you can do to improve your English quickly. The best part? It's easy, and you can start right now. That's right, we're talking about listening. Listening is the key to mastering English, and in this session, I'll show you why it's so crucial and how you can use it to level up your language skills. If you've ever felt stuck in your learning journey, like you've been trying for months or even years but haven't made the progress you hoped for, I completely understand. It can feel frustrating and demotivating. But here's the good news, listening is the easiest way to overcome that barrier. Let's take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt nervous trying to speak English? Maybe you've worried that you wouldn't understand what the other person was saying, or you felt unsure about how to pronounce certain words. Many learners experience these challenges, and it's totally normal. But here's the trick, listening can help you overcome these fears. The more you listen, the more your understanding improves, and the more confident you become in speaking. Think back to how you learned your first language. You didn't start with grammar exercises or textbooks, did you? No, you started by listening. As a child, you listened to your parents, siblings, friends, and even the television. Over time, without any formal lessons, you learned how to speak fluently. The same process applies to learning English. Listening is the foundation of language learning, everything else builds on it. When you make listening a habit, you'll notice improvements in multiple areas. Pronunciation, you'll learn the natural flow of words. Vocabulary, listening helps you absorb new words in context. Comprehension, your ability to understand spoken English will grow. Confidence, you'll feel more comfortable speaking because you'll know what to expect in conversations. Now, you might wonder, how do I start? Do I need to listen for hours every day? Not at all. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a big difference. But consistency is key, just like brushing your teeth or exercising. Listening has to become part of your daily routine. The more you listen, the faster you'll improve. One common mistake learners make is trying to listen to material they don't enjoy. If it feels boring, you'll lose motivation quickly. But here's the good news, you can listen to things you love. Are you a sports fan? Try listening to sports podcasts in English. Love cooking? Watch English language cooking shows. Enjoy music? Dive into English songs. The idea is to pick something that interests you so listening becomes enjoyable and not a task. When you're having fun, you won't even realize you're learning. You'll naturally absorb new words and phrases while enjoying your favorite content. Learning doesn't have to feel like hard work, it can be exciting and rewarding when you engage with topics that interest you. One thing that many learners worry about is the variety of English accents. There are American, British, Australian, and even regional accents within each country. It can be overwhelming at first, but here's an important tip: the more you listen, the easier it becomes. Your brain is incredibly adaptive. Even if an accent feels challenging initially, your ear will gradually adjust. A smart approach is to expose yourself to different accents. One day, listen to an American podcast, the next, watch a British TV show. This will train your ear to understand English no matter who is speaking. Think of it as working out different muscles at the gym, each accent helps build a different skill. Soon enough, you'll be able to understand speakers from various backgrounds with ease. Another amazing benefit of listening is that it helps you learn authentic, conversational English. While textbooks are useful for grammar, they don't always teach you how people speak in real life. In real conversations, native speakers use idioms, slang, and informal phrases that aren't typically found in textbooks. For example, have you ever heard someone say, "It's a piece of cake"? If you only saw this phrase in writing, you might think they were talking about dessert. But in conversation, you'd learn that it actually means, "It's easy." This kind of practical knowledge can only be gained through listening. Listening also teaches you about tone and emotion, an essential part of communication. In English, how you say something can change its meaning. For instance, if someone says, "That's great," their tone can reveal whether they are genuinely happy or being sarcastic. These subtle cues are difficult to learn from a textbook but become clear when you listen to real conversations. One of the biggest obstacles learners face is the fear of making mistakes. But guess what? Even native speakers make mistakes. Listening helps you build the confidence to speak without worrying too much about perfection. The more you listen, the more you'll feel prepared for real-life conversations. It's just like studying for an exam. If you know the material, you'll feel ready. In the same way, when you've trained your ear through listening, you'll feel more comfortable speaking. And here's an important reminder: you don't need to understand every single word to follow a conversation. Think about it. When you watch a movie in your native language, do you catch every word? Probably not, but you still understand the story. It's the same with English. Focus on the overall meaning rather than individual words. Your brain is great at filling in gaps, and over time, you'll understand more without even trying. If you're finding it hard to keep up with spoken English, don't hesitate to use subtitles. This isn't cheating, it's a smart way to learn. Turn on English subtitles while watching shows or movies. This will help you match spoken words with their written forms. Over time, you'll find yourself relying less on subtitles as your listening skills improve. Another benefit of listening is that it helps you learn new vocabulary in context. For example, let's say you're listening to a podcast and hear the word procrastinate. Even if you don't know the meaning right away, you can guess from the context that it means to delay or put something off. This is called contextual learning, and it's one of the most effective ways to build your vocabulary. Developing strong listening skills isn't just about learning the language, it's also essential for real-life situations. Whether you plan to travel, work, or study in an English-speaking country, good listening skills are crucial. Imagine you're in a meeting, and your boss is giving important instructions. Or maybe you're at a restaurant, trying to order food. If you can't understand what people are saying, you'll feel lost. But if you've trained your ear by listening to English regularly, you'll be ready for any situation. So, how do you make the most of listening? Start today. Make listening a part of your daily routine. Even just 10 or 15 minutes a day can make a big difference. Find something you enjoy, whether it's a podcast, a TV show, or music, and commit to listening every day. The more you listen, the better you'll get. It's that simple. To sum it all up, listening is one of the most powerful tools you have for learning English. It helps you improve your pronunciation, vocabulary, and comprehension. It boosts your confidence, makes speaking easier, and prepares you to understand different accents. Plus, you can do it anywhere, while driving, cooking, or exercising. Here's your challenge: start listening to English today. Even a few minutes each day can lead to big improvements over time. Choose content that excites you so that learning feels enjoyable. The progress you make will surprise you, and before you know it, you'll be having conversations with ease. So, are you ready to take your English to the next level? Start listening today, stay consistent, and watch your skills grow. Every time you listen, you're getting one step closer to fluency. Keep learning, keep practicing, and don't forget to enjoy the journey.
Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a young girl named Mia. Mia was a bright and curious girl. She had a big dream. She wanted to speak English fluently. However, she faced a challenge. Mia did not have anyone to practice speaking English with. Her friends spoke different languages, and she often felt lonely. She sat in her room, listening to English songs and watching English movies, but she wanted to do more. She felt frustrated because she wanted to speak, but she did not know how. One sunny afternoon, Mia decided to search for ways to improve her English. She opened her laptop and began to browse the internet. After a little while, she found something interesting. It was a technique called imitation. This technique promised to help people learn to speak English by themselves. Mia felt a spark of hope. She read that imitation is not just about repeating words, it is about listening and understanding. It is about expressing ideas in your own way. This sounded perfect for her. Excited about her discovery, Mia decided to try this technique. She looked for a short story online. After a few minutes, she found a lovely tale about a little girl who loved to explore the world around her. Mia listened carefully to the story. She focused on the words and the way the speaker expressed feelings. When the story finished, Mia closed her eyes and imagined the girl's adventures. She pictured the girl walking through a beautiful forest filled with colorful flowers and singing birds. After a moment, Mia began to speak about the story in her own words. Once there was a girl who liked to go on adventures. She loved exploring the forest. She found many beautiful flowers and made new friends. At first, it felt strange to speak alone, but she continued. Every time she repeated the story, she felt more confident. With each practice, she learned new words and phrases. She started to remember idioms and expressions that made her sentences sound more natural. As Mia practiced, she noticed something amazing. She began to understand how sentences were formed. She learned how to connect her thoughts more clearly. This was a big step for her. She realized that by imitating others, she was learning grammar without even trying. It was like magic. She was not just memorizing rules, she was naturally picking them up. One day, Mia decided to push herself further. Instead of imitating small parts of the story, she listened to a longer speech about kindness. The speaker talked about how small acts of kindness can change the world. After the speech, Mia paused for a moment. She took a deep breath and began to share the message in her own way. Being kind is very important. When we help others, we make the world a better place. Mia felt proud of her progress. She enjoyed using the technique of easy-to-hard imitation. At first, she imitated simple phrases. Then, she gradually moved to longer sentences. Each time, she felt a sense of achievement. She even recorded herself speaking. When she listened to her recordings, she could hear her improvement. This helped her see where she could do better. Mia also loved the flexibility of this method. She did not have to stick to just one type of material. Sometimes, she imitated dialogues from her favorite movies. Other times, she listened to podcasts about topics she loved, like animals and travel. Each time, she found joy in expressing herself. She felt like she was having conversations, even if she was alone in her room. One afternoon, Mia had a brilliant idea. She decided to invite her friends over for a movie night. She chose an English movie that she loved. Everyone came over, and they enjoyed the film together. After the movie, they sat in a circle and discussed the story. Mia felt excited to share her thoughts. Using her imitation technique, she expressed her opinions clearly. "I think the main character is brave. She faces many challenges, but she never gives up. Her friends listened attentively and praised her for her improvement. Mia felt a sense of belonging. She realized that learning English was not just about speaking well, it was also about connecting with others. She began to dream of traveling to English-speaking countries. She wanted to share her stories and learn from new friends. The thought excited her more than anything. As weeks passed, Mia's confidence soared. She decided to take her practice a step further. She joined an online language exchange group. In this group, she could speak with others who wanted to learn English too. At first, she felt nervous to meet new people. But she remembered her practice with imitation. During her first meeting, Mia listened carefully to everyone. She noticed how they spoke and expressed their thoughts. She imitated their speech patterns and phrases. Slowly, she started to speak herself. "Hello. My name is Mia. I love learning English. I want to improve my speaking skills." To her surprise, everyone welcomed her warmly. They shared their own stories and encouraged her to keep practicing. Mia learned the importance of community. She realized that speaking English was not just a personal goal, it was about sharing experiences. As she continued to practice, she became more fluent. She felt empowered to express her thoughts and ideas. She started to feel like she truly belonged. Months later, Mia stood in front of her classmates for a big presentation. She felt excited and a little nervous, but she was ready. She spoke clearly and confidently about her journey to learn English. "I learned through imitation. I listened to stories, practiced speaking, and shared my thoughts with others. This helped me grow as a speaker." Her classmates applauded her, and she felt a wave of happiness wash over her. Mia's story is a reminder that learning a language can be a joyful adventure. With dedication and the right techniques, anyone can improve their speaking skills. So, if you ever feel alone in your language journey, remember Mia. You can imitate, express, and connect, just like she did. And who knows? One day, you might inspire others with your story too. As the seasons changed in Mia's town, so did her confidence and her abilities. She continued to practice, learn, and grow. She knew that the journey of learning English would never truly end. Each day brought new opportunities and challenges. With her heart full of hope and her mind open to new ideas, Mia looked forward to what the future would bring. She had a dream, and she was determined to chase it.
Once upon a time, in a quaint village surrounded by lush fields and gentle hills, there lived a clever farmer named Sam. Sam was known for his hard work and kind heart. He lived with his lovely wife, Lily, in a small but cozy cottage. Together, they tended to their little farm, growing vegetables, fruits, and grains. They were not rich, but they were happy. Every day, they shared laughter and love, supporting each other through thick and thin. Sam and Lily had a simple routine. In the morning, they would wake up early, greet the sun, and start their day in the fields. Sam would plow the land while Lily planted seeds and watered the plants. At noon, they would take a break to enjoy a simple meal of bread and cheese, often accompanied by fresh fruit from their garden. They cherished these moments, sharing stories and dreams for the future. However, their happiness was not without challenges. They had a greedy neighbor named Tom, who was very wealthy and owned a large estate. Tom was known throughout the village for his sharp tongue and cunning ways. He watched Sam and Lily closely, envious of their joy and contentment. Tom wanted what they had: love, happiness, and a peaceful life. One sunny morning, while Sam was working in the fields, Tom decided to pay a visit to Lily. He approached her with a charming smile, but his intentions were anything but friendly. "Good day, lovely Lily," he said, feigning kindness. "You are a beautiful woman, but your clothes are old and worn. Why doesn't your husband buy you nice things?" Lily, taken aback by Tom's sudden appearance, replied politely, "Thank you, Tom. Sam works hard for us. I am happy with what I have." But Tom was relentless. "If he truly loved you, he would give you gifts. Marry me, and I will buy you everything you desire." At first, Lily was shocked and dismissed Tom's words. She loved Sam and knew he cared for her deeply. But Tom did not give up. He continued to visit her every day, planting seeds of doubt in her mind. "You deserve better," he said. "Look at how I live. I have gold, beautiful clothes, and jewels. Your husband can't even afford to buy you a nice dress." Slowly, Tom's words began to take root in Lily's heart. She started to wonder why Sam had never bought her new clothes or jewelry. "Maybe he doesn't love me as much as I thought," she mused. That night, when Sam returned home from the fields, Lily confronted him. "Sam, look at me. My clothes are old and ugly. I want new ones. If you love me, you will buy me a new dress." Sam was taken aback. He smiled gently and replied, "But my dear Lily, you are the most beautiful woman in the world to me. You don't need new clothes." Lily's expression changed from surprise to anger. "Don't you love me? If you loved me, you would buy me a new dress." Sam's heart sank. He loved Lily dearly and wanted to make her happy, but they had limited money. He thought about their little savings, which he needed for seeds and tools. After a moment of contemplation, he decided to sacrifice his own needs for her happiness. The next day, Sam went to the market. He searched through the stalls and finally found a lovely dress that he knew Lily would adore. He paid for it with the last of his savings and hurried home, eager to see her reaction. When he presented the dress to Lily, her eyes sparkled with joy. "Thank you, my dear husband," she exclaimed, putting it on. "Now I know you love me." However, the moment of happiness was short-lived. Tom returned the next day, and when he saw Lily in her new dress, he sneered. "That's nice, but is this all he gives you? Where are your gold rings and necklaces? A real husband would shower you with jewels." Lily, feeling uncertain again, began to doubt Sam's love once more. "Why doesn't Sam buy me jewelry?" she thought. Tom opened a box filled with sparkling gold jewelry, displaying it before her. "If you leave your husband, I will give you all this and more. You could have a life of luxury." Lily felt torn. She loved Sam, but Tom's words lingered in her mind. What if he is right? She wondered. That evening, Sam came home after a long day's work, tired and hungry. When he entered, Lily was silent. "What's wrong, my dear?" he asked. "I'm sad because you don't love me," she replied, her voice trembling. "If you truly loved me, you would buy me gold jewelry." Sam was shocked. "But I bought you a dress. I work hard every day for us. You are the most precious thing in my life." But Lily shook her head. "A man who loves his wife gives her jewelry," she insisted. Sam felt helpless. He wanted to give her what she desired, but didn't have the means. "I must find a way to make her happy," he thought. "Perhaps I can borrow money from my brother." The next day, Sam visited his brother's farm. "Please lend me some money," he said, "and I will work for you in your fields." His brother agreed but warned him that the work would be hard. Sam accepted the challenge, knowing it was for Lily's happiness. After working tirelessly in his brother's fields, he finally earned the money he needed. He hurried to the market and bought a beautiful gold necklace and rings. When he returned home, Lily's face lit up with joy. "Look at me. I am beautiful," she exclaimed, putting on the jewelry. However, Tom was not finished. He continued to visit Lily, each time planting more doubt in her mind. "Can your husband make miracles?" he asked one day. "What do you mean?" Lily replied, confused. "If he loves you, he should be able to perform miracles for you. Love can do that." Sam was worried. He loved Lily but felt powerless against Tom's manipulations. He decided to pray for guidance. "Oh Lord, please help me keep my wife. I love her dearly," he prayed with a heavy heart. As he worked in the fields, he met a mysterious stranger. The man was old and wise, and he carried 2 sticks. "I am a wizard," he said. "I can grant you a gift. These sticks can make miracles happen." Sam's eyes widened. "What kind of miracles?" he asked eagerly. The wizard explained, "If you touch someone with the first stick, they will become a donkey. If you touch them with the second stick, they will turn back into a person." Sam felt a rush of excitement. "Thank you. This is exactly what I need," he said, taking the sticks. He rushed home, eager to show Lily what he had received. "Watch this," he exclaimed, touching her with the first stick. To his amazement, she transformed into a donkey. Lily brayed and lifted her head in confusion, trying to speak but unable to. Sam quickly touched her again with the second stick, and she returned to her human form. "That was incredible. How did you do that?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "I prayed to God for help, and he sent me a wizard," Sam explained. "Now, I can punish our greedy neighbor." The next day, Sam decided to teach Tom a lesson. He gave Lily the first stick and told her to touch Tom with it. When Tom arrived, he was his usual arrogant self. "Have you found your miracle yet?" he taunted. "No, but I can show you something," Lily said, touching him with the first stick. In an instant, Tom transformed into a donkey. He brayed loudly, confused and frightened. "What have you done?" he cried, but all that came out was a donkey's sound. "Now you will help me in the fields," Sam said, laughing. He led the donkey to his farm, where Tom would work hard like a common beast of burden. For days, Tom carried heavy loads, moving stones and helping Sam with the chores. Lily was delighted to see the greedy man humbled. "This is wonderful," she said, watching Tom struggle with the heavy tasks. Sam smiled, feeling proud. "We are finally free from his tricks," he said. Days turned into weeks, and Sam's farm flourished. With Tom's help as a donkey, they managed to grow more crops and earn more money. However, as time passed, Sam noticed that the donkey was becoming old and tired. "I feel sorry for him," he said one day. Seeing the donkey struggle, Sam decided it was time to change things. He took the second stick and touched the donkey once again. Tom transformed back into his human form, but he was no longer the handsome man he once was. He was old and weary, a shadow of his former self. "What have you done to me?" Tom demanded, his voice trembling. "You tried to take my wife from me, and that was wrong," Sam replied firmly. "Now go home and never return. Don't look at other men's wives again." Tom, realizing he had lost, walked away quietly, never to bother them again. With their enemy gone, Sam and Lily could finally live in peace. They worked together, tending to their farm and enjoying each other's company. Their love grew stronger every day. They learned the value of trust and communication. They often laughed about the troubles they faced with Tom. "I should have known better than to listen to him," Lily said one evening as they shared a meal. Sam nodded, "Love is more valuable than gold or jewelry." As the seasons changed, their crops flourished, and they became known as one of the happiest couples in the village. They began to help others in need, sharing their harvest and their stories. Sam would often tell the villagers about his adventures with the wizard and the greedy neighbor. One day, as they sat together on their porch, watching the sunset, Lily turned to Sam. "I am so grateful for you," she said, her eyes sparkling. "You worked hard for my happiness, and I love you for that." Sam smiled back, feeling content. "And I love you for believing in me, even when times were tough." Years passed, and Sam and Lily grew old together. They had children who inherited their love for the land and their strong values. They often shared the story of how they overcame greed and temptation. Their children learned the importance of love, trust, and loyalty. One day, while reminiscing, Sam turned to Lily and said, "You know, I think we have created our own miracles." Lily smiled, "Yes, every day is a miracle when we are together." And so, the clever farmer and his beloved wife lived happily ever after, proving that true love and dedication can conquer even the greatest challenges.
Once upon a time, in a modest apartment in a bustling city, there lived a young man named Gregor Samsa. Gregor was the sole breadwinner for his family, which consisted of his father, mother, and sister, Greta. He worked as a traveling salesman, a job he despised, but he was devoted to his family and felt responsible for their financial well-being. Every morning, he would wake up early, don his suit, and prepare for the long day ahead, often dreaming of a life free from the burdens of work. One fateful morning, as the sun peeked through the blinds, Gregor awoke to find himself transformed into a monstrous insect. His once human body had become a grotesque shell, with multiple legs and a hard exoskeleton. Panic surged through him as he struggled to comprehend his new reality. The clock ticked ominously, and the thought of missing work sent waves of fear through him. He was terrified of how his family would react if they discovered him late for his job. As he attempted to rise from his bed, his new body proved unwieldy. His legs flailed awkwardly, and the realization struck him that he could no longer stand upright. Despite his condition, he was still consumed with thoughts of his responsibilities. The weight of his family's expectations bore down on him, and he thought of the financial burden they would face without his income. He tried to call out to his family, but all that escaped his mouth was a series of strange, guttural sounds. His anxious thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his mother's voice calling for him. She was worried about his tardiness. Gregor's heart raced. He wanted to reassure her, to explain that he would be out soon. But how could he convey the truth of his situation? In a moment of desperation, he tried to push against the bed, but his body betrayed him, and he fell to the floor with a thud. Hearing the noise, his family rushed to his room. His father, mother, and sister gathered at the door, wide-eyed and horrified by the sight before them. They could hardly comprehend the grotesque creature that had replaced their son. Gregor felt a pang of sorrow as he realized that his transformation had shattered their image of him. He could see the fear in their eyes, the confusion, and the growing repulsion. Greta was the first to recover from the shock. She stepped forward, her heart racing with concern for her brother. Despite her fear, she attempted to approach him gently, but her father pulled her back, cautioning her to stay away from the creature. Gregor, desperate for their understanding, tried to crawl toward them, but his movements only heightened their horror. In their eyes, he was no longer Gregor, he was a monster. Days turned into weeks, and as Gregor struggled to adjust to his new life, his family grappled with the implications of his transformation. Initially, they cared for him, bringing him food and attempting to clean his room, but their patience quickly wore thin. Greta, who had once been his closest ally, became increasingly resentful. The burden of caring for Gregor fell heavily on her shoulders, and she began to view him as an inconvenience rather than a beloved brother. Gregor, trapped in his own body, found solace in the small moments of connection he shared with Greta. Occasionally, she would sit by his side, speaking to him as if he were still the brother she once knew. He would listen intently, though he could only respond with the soft hisses and clicks of his insect form. During these moments, he felt a flicker of hope that their bond could endure, even in the face of such unimaginable change. However, as time passed, the family's situation grew dire. Their financial stability crumbled without Gregor's income. His father, once a proud man, was forced to take a job as a lowly laborer. His mother fell ill from the stress, and Greta, overwhelmed, struggled to maintain the household. The once cozy apartment turned into a claustrophobic prison, filled with tension and despair. Gregor's presence became a constant reminder of their misfortune. The family's pity turned to frustration, and the love they had once shown him eroded into resentment. They began to avoid him, shutting him away in his room, as if he were a burden too heavy to bear. The warmth of familial affection faded, replaced by cold indifference. One evening, as the family discussed their dire circumstances, Gregor overheard a conversation that shattered what little hope remained. They spoke of the need to get rid of him, to find a way to move on without the burden of his existence. Gregor, horrified, realized that he was no longer a part of their lives, but a mere obstacle in their path to normalcy. The weight of loneliness crushed him, and he retreated deeper into the shadows of his room. As the days grew darker, Greta's kindness waned. She no longer visited him as she once did, and the family's neglect intensified. Gregor began to lose his sense of self, feeling more like a creature than a man. He spent his days hiding in the corners of his room, watching the world outside his window, longing for the life he had lost. One day, in a moment of desperation, Gregor ventured out of his room, driven by a flicker of hope. He wanted to see his family, to remind them of the bond they once shared. He crawled slowly into the living room, but his appearance sent his family into a frenzy. His father, horrified at the sight of his transformed son, hurled an object at him, forcing Gregor back into the shadows. The encounter shattered any remaining connection between them. Gregor understood that he was no longer part of their world. He was a burden, a reminder of their misfortunes, and they could no longer bear the weight of his existence. The realization crushed him, but he accepted his fate with a heavy heart. As the weeks turned into months, Gregor's physical condition worsened. He became weaker, his body frail and emaciated. He spent his days in solitude, reflecting on the life he had once cherished. Memories of laughter, family dinners, and shared dreams haunted him. He longed for the warmth of human connection, for the love of his family, but those moments felt like distant echoes fading into silence. One cold, dreary evening, Gregor lay on the floor of his room, too weak to move. As he closed his eyes, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had fought long enough against the tide of despair. Perhaps it was time to let go. In that moment, he surrendered to the darkness, embracing the void that awaited him. The next morning, the Samsa family discovered Gregor's lifeless body. Instead of mourning the loss of their son, they felt an overwhelming sense of relief. His death marked the end of their burden, the release from the nightmare that had consumed their lives. They gathered together, sharing a moment of quiet contemplation, before turning their attention to the future. With Gregor gone, the family felt unshackled from their despair. They began to make plans for a new life, free from the weight of their past. Greta blossomed into a young woman, her spirit renewed by the absence of her brother. As they strolled through the city, she and her parents looked forward to a brighter future, filled with possibilities. In the end, Gregor's transformation had not only changed him, but had irrevocably altered the lives of those he loved. As they moved on, the memory of their son faded into the background, a shadow of what once was. The Samsa family learned to adapt, to survive, and to rebuild their lives without him. And so, the story of Gregor Samsa, the young man who became a monstrous insect, came to a tragic close. In his metamorphosis, he had hoped for understanding, for compassion, but instead found rejection and despair. His life became a haunting reminder of the fragility of human connections and the devastating impact of isolation.